After two great installments into the simulation racing genre, Project Cars 3 was tipped as the perfection of the formula, the game that would bring it all together. Slightly Mad Studios had an extra year of development, and the ability to now push this current generation of consoles to its absolute limit, and take control of the competitive market they find themselves in. Fans were desperate to see new additions such as Formula 3, 2 and 1, safety cars, red flags, more tracks in cars, a track builder, more consistent AI, etc. This was the game to go all out and leave Project Cars fans satisfied going into the next generation. On the 3rd of June, the third entry into the franchise was revealed, and the reaction was less than ideal. Project Cars 3 is a simcade racing game. This means that, simply put, it's neither a full simulation racing game, nor arcade. The best examples I can give here would be Forza Horizon or Need for Speed Shift. For whatever reason, Slightly Mad Studios decided that this was the direction to take the series. Fans of the original two games will not enjoy this one, or at least they won't enjoy it any more than previous entries. It's astonishing to see a franchise deviate so drastically from its core formula, and it does so with little purpose or conviction. Things like tyre management, pit stops, and simulation damage are elements of the past, replaced with Forza Horizon style cutscenes and a user interface that was seemingly taken from a knockoff mobile game. This screen actually makes me want to puke. Before we delve into the career mode, I want to mention some technical issues, and you can probably tell that these are mostly negatives. Firstly, the frame rate is actually fine offline, but once you hop into multiplayer, it stutters and skips all over the place. This hit its peak at the Nürburgring, where my screen seemed to enter a different dimension altogether.
Nice start!
I understand I'm playing this on the original Xbox One, but I play Forza Horizon 4 on the same console with no issues whatsoever. But maybe the poor frame rate is because Project Cars 3 has awe-inspiring, realistic graphics. Not in the slightest. When I hopped into the interior view of my car for the first time, I genuinely thought I was playing a last generation game. I don't understand where this downgrade occurred from, but the graphics are so terrible for a racing game that it actually distracts you from driving. The game also has a pretty bad pop-in problem, as showcased when I was zooming around the Dubai Autodrome. Project Cars 3 features a typical work your way to the top career mode. However, its structure is quite unique and leaves a lot to be desired. Firstly, the majority of the time the objective is not to win the race, but rather to achieve a certain number of perfect corners or overtake 4 opponents within 30 seconds. This makes winning that bit less enjoyable, as you may have missed an objective that may cost you further down the line. My second issue with the career mode is that you unlock new events and categories by completing these objectives, or if you have the funds, buying your way in. I will discuss this soon, but some of the objectives are absurd, meaning you will frequently have to buy your way into new events. This means you will likely have to sell a car, and it results in your car collection taking a beating. Project Cars 3 features a couple of game modes, including normal races, hot laps, pace setters, and breakout. The only mode here that isn't boring or infuriating is hot laps. Racing in Project Cars 3 is quite the hassle. The game features no qualifying, so you always start right in the middle of the pack, meaning you'll have to overtake about 12 plus cars in order to win. Except the majority of races occur on tracks that either have less than 4 laps or are as narrow as the streets of Monaco. The result? You end up barging everyone out of your way because it's the only way to win. I did a standard race on the easiest difficulty, and it took me until the last few corners to overtake first, even though I was about 5 to 10 seconds a lap quicker. How could you possibly win this race on a higher difficulty? As well as that, the AI are super aggressive, And this sounds good, but most of the time it results in them taking up your line through a corner, or blatantly shunting you from behind. I understand this can be altered in the settings, but any driver is going to be aggressive, just not unfairly aggressive like in Project Cars 3. My other huge gripe with the game modes is pace setter. You have 3 laps to throw your car around a track, and your average lap is determined. 2 issues here. Firstly, the objectives are borderline impossible. I had a fully upgraded Nissan Skyline that was seconds off the target time on multiple occasions. It seems as well that these objectives don't change with difficulty, and on one occasion I was nowhere near the easiest objective, which is such a deterrent for new fans. Secondly, if you even dare tiptoe off the track for even a moment, your entire run is cancelled and you must restart. If Lewis Hamilton can qualify first for the Belgian Grand Prix whilst putting his car here on the track, why can't I do the same in Project Cars 3? And you would think that with all these extra arcade elements, that they'd add in some sort of rewind or flashback option. I understand it's not the best way to enjoy a racing game, but for casual fans, there is no harm in having the choice. Honestly, after 5 or 6 races, I was debating why I even bothered purchasing and reviewing this game. That was until I switched from using a wheel to using a controller. I began treating the game not as a Project Cars game, but rather as a Project Gotham racing game. I have to admit it has one of the best handling models for a controller I've ever experienced. It's quite forgiving, yet there's so much room to work in, and it's still a real challenge to nail the fastest line. This brings me on to the racing line, which is represented by these icons on track. They are ideal for learning a new track, but their biggest problem is most of the time they're wrong, especially the braking points. It says slow down, but what the hell does that mean? Brake, lift off the throttle, boat? Again, you're making a Simcade racing game, so help out your new consumer here by explaining this in more detail. Speaking of tracks, the selection is absurdly good. So many locations, most with different variants and weather conditions. It really helps when you're hours deep into the career and you're still driving on new tracks. There are fictional tracks as well as Tier 1 Grand Prix circuits and small tracks which are probably best suited to go-karts. Admittedly, the car selection is quite bad. This actually doesn't bother me as I prefer a higher number of tracks than cars, but the amount and variety is undeniably poor, especially compared with competitors. Cars can be upgraded and customized in the garage, but yet again these options fall short compared to other racing games. Though I will commend the preset livery options, as it allows someone like me who has zero creativity in that department to use a livery I'm content with. You can customize the livery, tyres, wheels, and number plate. As I mentioned before, however, it feels kind of meaningless because you'll probably end up selling that car in the future in order to unlock a new event. Speaking of events, let's talk about multiplayer. You have 3 options: quick play, which drops you into a random lobby, scheduled events, the clue is in the name, and custom lobby, which is effectively a server browser. I found that the best experience here are the scheduled events. Firstly, there will be more than 2 opponents, and secondly, there is qualifying. And delightfully, I found the online competitors to be quite friendly and respectful. You can really engage in some proper good racing here, and these events provided some of the best moments from playing the game. Project Cars 3 is a game with no identity. At times it insists that it takes you on this new arcade experience that was forcefully implemented into the franchise, and other times it reminds you of the roots of the franchise. The two don't mix, and by attempting both, the result is that neither reaches its full potential. The game doesn't appeal to Project Cars fans because it's too different of an experience. Yet it doesn't appeal to arcade racing fans because there are much better alternatives in the market. And that's the biggest problem for Project Cars 3. It seems to have taken influence from other successful games and installed some of those features into their product to no avail. The only reason to buy this game is the sheer number of tracks. But other than that, Project Cars 3 doesn't do anything better than any of its rivals. And with a package like that, Slightly Mad Studios can only hope for a mid-table finish. As ever, if you have any upcoming games you'd like me to review, please let me know.